Hi, I'm Scott Cooper, the writer and director of Out of the Furnace on Screen Dreams on Viewtopia.
I like this one. He's tough. Makes me want to jump in there with you. See who walks out.
When I set out to write it, much like my first film, Crazy Heart, I wanted to tell a very personal story, and I wanted to shine a light on what we as Americans were experiencing these past 5 turbulent years, and to tell a story about the human spirit, and about brotherhood and love and courage and honor and absolution and justice, all of those things, trying to weave into a narrative that would speak not only to Americans but also to the world who could understand these themes.
Russell, you work too much.
Gotta bring home the bacon to fatten you up.
I grew up in the shadow of the Blue Ridge and the Appalachian Mountains and lived in the coal country. My grandfather was a coal miner. I understood these blue-collar people intimately and their plight and their struggles and their milieu. And then while traveling with Crazy Heart around the world, I stopped in Pittsburgh, and prior to that I had been reading a great deal about Braddock, Pennsylvania, and how it had fallen in hard times. And as I drove through it, I was just so moved by the plight of these citizens. And then once I spoke to them, you got a sense that these are people of real courage and strength, and that spoke to me, and the town was very cinematic and photogenic, and I thought that I could set a narrative in that town that reminded me of my life experiences.
You're gonna be a good boy and take a dive like Petty said you would. I'm not gonna have to teach you a lesson.
No, he's good. He's good.
You teach me a lesson?
I gave you a word.
Yeah.
It was really an incredible experience casting the film. I wrote Crazy Heart for Jeff Bridges and had never met Jeff, and I wrote Out of the Furnace with Christian Bale in mind. Had never met Christian, but had long admired him. He's one of the best actors of my generation, or any generation. I had never really seen Christian play the type of vulnerability and gentleness and kindness and paternalistic side of who he is, but also kind of combine that with the courage and strength that it takes to play this part. I've come to know Christian. He's now one of my best friends, and he's one of the lightest and most humorous people and giving and kind that I know. And when you have Christian Bale as the bedrock of your film, you then delight in casting because everybody wants to work with him.
The script was one that just, I never sort of articulate it, but you just get a gut feeling about a script, and if it just sticks with you for a while after, that's really the test for me, is how do I keep thinking about it, and for how long do I keep thinking about it. And but then it just wasn't possible to get it together because I was in the middle of making a film, and it just wasn't going to happen. And then it was just kind of, it was actually quite impulsive. I called up Scott just to be supportive because I assumed he'd moved on and he would have cast somebody else and he'd be making the film. And I just want to be supportive and say good luck with it. And I called him up and said, who are you making it with? And he said, no, I told you, you're the only guy I'd make it with. And so I said, oh, wow, all right, well, I've got, 3 months free. Can we get it together? And he did. He got it together really quickly. We shot it out. I did like 27 days on this. And, it's fantastic.
I'd long admired Casey Affleck's work. He's a real artist and genius level talent.
I gave my life for this country. But what's it done for me? Huh? What's it done for me?
Woody Harrelson, of course, is a national treasure, as is Sam Shepard and Forrest Whitaker and Willem Dafoe. And then there's Zoe Saldana, and I wanted to see a very gentle and humane side of Zoe that I hadn't quite seen in her work, but that knew she was capable of. So it became very important to me to cast actors who, even though Christian Bale is impossibly handsome, these are all character actors at heart. And character actors are egoless and want to serve the story, and they all fit perfectly.
Oh, man.
How'd it feel?
I have a brother, and I understood what that bond was and that sense of chemistry that we needed. And we had done a great deal of investigative text work prior to shooting, and I don't like to over-rehearse or rehearse much at all because I think performances then become stale and too lived in, and I never want to say, wow, I should have shot that. So what you see on screen is two actors who are at the very height of their craft and their powers, and they are playing such truth and humanity that as a filmmaker and the creator of this world, it's exhilarating to watch.
You know, I'd really fought together with Scott to have Casey play Rodney. You know, there were lots of suggestions for other very good actors, but Scott and I just really felt like, we thought Casey was so talented and he would be great at it. And, you know, man, he does a wonderful job. And then with Woody, you know, it's great. He's one of the nicest guys you'll ever meet in the world, and he's one of the most terrifying bastards you'll ever come across, you know, in this film.
Your mom teach you to barge in like that?
You got a problem with me?
You want actors to be able to take risks and fail and do things you've never seen them do, and I required them to do that, and they gave me that and more. Some of the fight sequences, to try to get a sense of verisimilitude and authenticity without getting anybody hurt, took a lot of planning and preparation. But I would go into every scene overly prepared, but they were all daunting because you're dealing with very delicate subject matter, and you're dealing with actors who are just giving you such great work that as the filmmaker, you don't want to fail them.
I don't like to fight. I hate seeing fights. I don't like violence. I don't really like violence in movies, like realistic violence. Yet, on the other hand, I feel like if there's going to be violence in the movie, it ought to be, morally, it should be realistic. Let's have it be upsetting. Let's have you, so you're sitting there watching that and you know what it's like.
You been hit too many times?
Listen, we talked, everything's good.
Hey, yeah, I like this one. He's tough.
I wrote very specifically for many of the locations as I'm driving through Braddock, Pennsylvania, and those that had a soul, those that represented the people, and that represented their plight. The entire town came out of the furnace, essentially, literally and figuratively. That's the largest employers, the steel mill, and has been for decades. And the whole region comes out of the furnace, and then a man metaphorically, literally, figuratively comes out of the furnace to avenge a very dear loss. Those locations serve as another character in the film, and they add a layer of authenticity that I would never find on the back lot of a studio.
It just wouldn't have been the same without it. You know, it wouldn't have worked. You know, being in the real place, feeling the kind of rawness of it, you know, having the locals being, you know, in the background and being the real people, getting to hang out with them, going to the real steel furnaces, you know, learning the accent and everything from the locals. It all makes such a huge difference and leads to the ability to really sell the film in a proper way and just sort of have it exist.
A lot of the work gets done for you. You know, you get to just absorb sort of by osmosis sort of the atmosphere that is the movie. In the setting as a character itself in the movie, you know, it's kind of about places like this, you know, people like this in a way, as well as being about these specific people.
It's a very harrowing experience to put forth a personal story and one that means so much to me and to my actors. And I just hope that whether people embrace the film or whether they disdain the film, I hope that people are thinking about this the next day, 2 days later, the moments when they're driving to work or walking through a park. And if I've done that, then I've done my job, because it's a very important film for me. I'm very proud of it. It's my second film, and one that I hope people engage with.
We're brothers, and we're all we got.